Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1603B, and today's date is June 28th, 2018, and the title of the episode is Justice Will Be Served. Behold the Full Power of the Storm. Let's get into the economic collapse, political, and geopolitical news. Now, we know the European Union, they're in trouble. Right now, the Brexit's going on. The bill is being pushed to separate the UK from the EU. Italy, well, they're looking at the situation saying we don't agree with the EU right now. We also see Poland and many other countries doing the same exact thing. Now, Italian Interior Minister Salvini said within a year, we'll see if a united Europe still exists. And already we can see just from that statement that there are countries saying they don't think the EU is going to stay together. Now, remember, the EU was born because of the central banking system, and we know that the globalists were trying to create this one world type of government, one world type of currency, and these were the different stages they were using to get to that point where they were trying to unite Europe with one currency, with one non-elected government that started to call the shots. The central bank then would put each one of these countries into debt, and they would control each one of these countries. And then you would have the TPP on top of that, where they place a court above the government, which would overrule the government and would not be controlled by any of the countries. This is how they were trying to get to that stage, but we can see right now that it's all completely breaking apart. We see out in India, they are moving closer to Russia. They're looking to make deals with Russia and China using their own currency. And we can see that Washington was trying to push them in a different direction with sanctions, but sanctions really didn't work with India. So now they're taking a different approach where they're saying, listen, instead of buying the S-400, we'll give you the THAAD missile system. But once again, India is looking at this saying, well, I don't know if we really want the THAAD missile system. It's not the same as the S-400. The S-400 is superior to the THAAD air defense system. And what are the differences? Well, one of the primary reasons why India sought the Russian S-400, it was a platform designed with advanced anti-stealth capabilities to counter American fighters such as the F-22 Raptor. Now, unlike the S-400, the THAAD not only lacks counter-stealth capabilities, but it also lacks anti-aircraft capabilities entirely and is designed solely to intercept enemy ballistic missiles. This seriously limits its usefulness to India. And I think that India most likely is going to go with the S-400 and deal outside of the dollar and make this deal. We'll have to see how the U.S. reacts to this, but I think many countries right now are moving towards the Russian military assets. Why? Well, we know the economic system is breaking apart. We know there are countries now moving away from the dollar, and I think these countries are a little afraid and nervous because they've seen in the past what the U.S. does when you try to move away from the U.S. system, the control of the U.S. system. But I think times are changing right now, and I think that was the old way of doing things, and there's a new way of doing things right now, but these countries are still very nervous because, again, the deep state has been in control for such a long time. They don't see a difference just yet, but I think that difference, that whole new type of government is coming. And again, is it going to happen tomorrow? No, it's a slow process, but I think we're moving in the right direction. We see a new United Nations report came out, and it says the Saudi-led coalition was responsible for at least half of the children deaths and injuries in Yemen last year. And if we look back further, it was Saudi Arabia. Again, they were told by the U.S. to go into Yemen and take control of that country. And Saudi Arabia has been using paid mercenary forces to basically make the Yemeni people suffer. And there are a lot of children that died. A lot of people are struggling there. And this needs to end right now. I mean, I think this is the time where this Saudi-Yemen war needs to end. Remember, Yemen never attacked Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia attacked Yemen. The only reason Saudi Arabia is there is because the Houthis threw out the puppet government that the U.S. put in there. And the U.S. then had Saudi Arabia go into Yemen to try to place the puppet regime back into Yemen, but it didn't work. They didn't realize the Houthis, well, the people were behind them, and the people are working with them. And I think this whole entire war is a nightmare for Saudi Arabia, and I think it's time for them to end this. We see hundreds of Syrian refugees. They are returning to Syria from Lebanon. Now, there's something like over 1 million refugees in Lebanon, and we're already starting to see a lot of these refugees move back into Syria. And why are they moving back into Syria? Because the Syrian armed forces, they have liberated many, many towns, got rid of the terrorists, got rid of the moderate rebels, and they feel that it is time that they can go home and not feel afraid to live in their town. And remember, the paid mercenary, the rebels, it was a nightmare in these areas with these groups because they would torture, they would have curfews. It was a complete nightmare in this entire country for these people. We see France right now, Macron, he has named a personal representative for Syria. Now, they haven't had a personal representative for Syria for a very long time. Paris made it clear that they're not going to reopen an embassy in Damascus, but they're going to have a personal representative. I think the reason for this is they see the writing on the wall. They see that Syria, well, Assad has taken back his country with the help of Russia, and Macron realizes that they don't have a chance in taking Syria over, so they might as well get the representative ready. Most likely they will be opening an embassy in Damascus once all the forces are out of Syria, and I think everyone's getting prepared for that. We see the OPCW, they have won new powers to undermine the authority of the UN Security Council. Now, the Organization for a Prohibition of Chemical Weapons is the Hague-based enforcement body for the Chemical Weapons Convention, the CWC, and has been operating since 1997. It has around 193 UN states as members. Its mission is to oversee global compliance with the convention, which prohibits the use of chemical weapons and requires their destruction. The inspectors have the power to say whether chemical weapons have been used following a fact-finding visit, and they don't have the power to place blame. Now, the reason for that is because they didn't want this group to become political. And we know that the U.S. and the coalition forces have a huge influence over the OPCW. So the question we have to ask, who proposed this power? Well, the proposal submitted was by the UK and had the backing of the United States, the European Union, and other nations under their influence. From the very beginning, the British initiative was supported by the OPCW. We can see that right now that those deep state operatives, they're trying to push their agenda to have the OPCW, which they control, to say that Assad used chemical weapons. That's what this is all about, because they're realizing that with the OPCW just saying that, yeah, chemical weapons have been used, their methods of saying that Assad used the chemical weapons because they've been used in Syria haven't worked. So they need the group to say who used the chemical weapons. Now remember, there have been reporters on the ground, Russia's on the ground, they control many of the areas where this happened, and we had investigative reporters on the ground saying they spoke to many, many people and there were no chemical attacks. Remember, the OPCW a lot of times don't even go into Syria to do a fact-finding mission to take samples. Sometimes they just look online at different social media pages to gather their evidence. So we can see right now that this whole plan is a plan by the deep state to try to push their agenda in Syria. Again, is it going to work? Probably not, because we can see that the Islamic State, al-Nusra, al-Qaeda, the moderate rebels, most of them are surrendering, most of them are fleeing, and the Syrian armed forces, they are liberating many towns and villages right now. Russia right now has announced that they're going to withdraw some of their forces from Syria. They're no longer going to fight with Syria. They're just going to keep in the background, let Syria do all the fighting right now because they feel comfortable enough where they have most of the country. And I think now they're saying, okay, it's up to Syria to continue on the fighting and take control of the rest of the country. We see Assad right now is preparing to retake the southwest Syria, and Israel is going to have to decide what they're going to do because Assad now is headed in that direction. Now, will Israel fight against Assad or will they negotiate with Assad? We'll have to wait and see. We see Q has dropped more breadcrumbs, and I want to go back to post number 1602, and this is where Q was talking about White Squall, Red Wave, In God We Trust. And White Squall was a movie, and in the White Squall, and I'm going to play the clip right now of that trailer so you can understand what I'm talking about. So here's the clip.
The ship beneath you is not a toy. Sailing's not a game.
So why the hell do it?
Bill's character, Mr. Preston, of which you are in desperately short supply.
They came from different places.
And this Ocean Academy isn't recognized as accredited.
It'll be a good thing, Dad.
They sailed for different reasons.
I don't want to be what I was when I left.
There you go.
Anonymous.
But there was only one way.
We'll do it together.
I can't.
Climb!
To survive on his ship.
I will challenge them, and they will come together.
Become a team.
Where we go one, we go all.
Because where he was taking them
What are they doing?
Claiming their place in the world.
could not be measured in miles. They thought they had survived the greatest challenge of their lives.
We had come through every kind of seas imaginable.
Except the white squall.
But it was only
White squalls are a phenomenon of the imagination.
the calm
What happened to my ship was not imagined.
before the storm. Largo Entertainment presents a film about loyalty,
Where we go one,
We go all.
discovery,
But we're a crew. That's what this whole thing is about.
and courage.
Don't you walk out on this, Skipper, you don't!
Captain, they're only boys.
We listened to you, we believed you!
they're much more than that, sir.
And we are still here!
Jeff Bridges in a Ridley Scott film. White Squall, based on a true story.
Now, as you heard in this clip, the skipper and many other individuals within this movie, they talked about the storm coming. The skipper said, where we go one, we go all. And we see that this is where this all came from. The storm, where we go one, where we go all. And I think this is what Q is pointing to, showing us this is where it originated from. We see that the Trump-Putin summit is going to take place on July 16th in Helsinki, and the White House put out an official statement. So it looks like Putin and Trump, they're going to meet. Bolton is meeting ahead of time. And again, this is something that the deep state does not want. They don't want them to come together. Post 1608, June 27th. I will not be filing for re-election to Congress, nor seeking any other political or elected office. Instead, I'll be returning to the justice system, Gowdy said in a statement. Q says, should we add him to the list? So, is this going to be Supreme Court Justice Trey Gowdy? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. Post 1609, Q put out everything that POTUS has done so far. And it starts out, Are You Awake? Mainstream media, propaganda tool of the D Party. POTUS, economy, not good enough, impeach. POTUS, job creating, not good enough, impeach. POTUS, GDP, not good enough, impeach. POTUS, manufacturing, not good enough, impeach. Went on, POTUS, save the world from North Korea, not good enough, impeach. POTUS, boost U.S. energy dominance, not good enough, impeach. POTUS, accountability, reorg the executive branch, not good enough, impeach. POTUS, helping veterans, not good enough, impeach. And it went on and on and on. And basically saying POTUS is doing all these things, and the mainstream media is saying impeach, impeach, impeach. And Q went on to say, do you not believe the truth is spreading? Do you not believe they are losing their slave grip? Do you not believe we are winning? And he points to a link from Breitbart, which says that a poll says that 72% of Americans believe the establishment media reports fake news. And if you speak to a lot of people right now, they say that they don't listen to the mainstream media right now because they don't know if the news is real or fake. And a lot of people think it is fake. Q went on to say, silent majority, no more. Fight, fight, fight. Where we go one, we go all. What a wonderful day. Q. Post 1611, June 27th. Q says, sound familiar? Sarah Carter, grilled, Strzok, questioned by lawmakers. And we know that Strzok, Rosenstein are being grilled with questions, and Rosenstein, he will not answer many of the questions. I think one of the questions they put to him, did Obama spy on Trump? And he said, I can't order that because of a security, problem with that. National security will not allow me to do this. Post 1612, June 27th. And Anon said, Q, not now. We are listening to some ND guy talking before Trump speaks. Q said, just landed. You have time. Not every day Q actually responds to something like that. But what we get out of this is that Q is traveling with the president to the rally in North Dakota. So Q is with the president right now. 1613, Q. Goodlot on Fox, FBI attorney instructing Peter Strzok not to answer. Answers texts not believable. Sound familiar? Rest assured, justice will be served. Q. So Strzok basically stonewalling by pleading the fifth over and over. It doesn't really matter at this point. He's only delaying the inevitable. Post 1614. There's a picture of everyone in North Dakota, and there are individuals with the shirt with the letter Q on there, and Q says, we see you. So many VIPs at the rally. Q. And post 1615 Q shows, looks like a family all wearing the shirt of Q, and Q says, Patriots one and all, winning, hashtag winning. So we move on to post 1616, which is June 27th, and he says, coincidence, these people are sick. What he's talking about is this article in yournewswire.com where a Clinton campaign official was arrested on child rape charges. So who is this individual? Joel Davis was caught in possession of explicit child sex images and had attempted to get access to children as young as 2 years old for sex. Now, what's very interesting about this is that Davis was chairman of the International Campaign to Stop Rape and Gender Violence in Conflict charity. He also worked on Hillary Clinton's 2016 presidential campaign. So Davis allegedly told an undercover FBI agent that he was sexually interested in children of all ages. He's accused of sending the agent sexually explicit photographs of infants and toddlers, including some of the children engaged in sex acts with adults. So then we move on to post 1618, June 28th. And Anon wrote the following. This hearing is incredibly painful to sit through and extremely frustrating. Nothing about this hearing will change the minds of those still asleep. When will something be revealed to wake up more sleepers? Q responded to this Anon. Focus on House floor vote now. So then we move on to post 1619. And Q says, why are they trying to normalize this? And this is going back to pedophilia, where the New York Post has a news story saying that Facebook has a survey out there asking if you condone pedophilia. And it looks like they're trying to see where everyone stands or put it out there that this is coming. And actually, Q says, what is coming? Do they really believe this will ever be swallowed? Will the progressive left defend and support these actions once those guilty are brought to light? These people are sick. They do not love this country. Q. Post 1620, June 28th. An anon put up, focus on House floor vote now, already in notables. Q. Now he's just repeating what Q said in one of the previous posts. And this anon says, House passes measure demanding the Department of Justice documents. In a 216 to 183 vote, lawmakers approved the messaging measure which calls on the Department of Justice to turn over all the documents the House Republicans have requested related to the FBI's handling of investigations during the 2016 presidential election. The party line vote, with one Republican voting present, puts the entire conference on the record in the escalating feud between the Department of Justice and House Republicans, who have been fighting for months to access a trove of highly sensitive documents. So Q then says, well, who brought the bill to the floor? Read between the lines. Well, who did bring the bill to the floor? It was Representative Meadows, Mark Meadows. He introduced this on June 27th. And basically, who pushed this? It was Paul Ryan. Remember, Paul Ryan, he's not coming back. He's not seeking a re-election. So he's free to do whatever he needs to do. Post 1621, June 28th. Q says, we remember you, Mr. VIP. And I don't know if you remember this, but a couple posts back, there was a guy wearing a Q shirt with a beard, and we just showed the picture once again that he was once again at the rally. And what happened here was the president remembered him, pointed at him, and winked again, another confirmation. And you can see that this is continually happening here, where we're getting all these confirmations. So Q says, where did the storm derive from? Where we go one, where we go all. Some things leave lasting impressions. Listen carefully. And gave the link to that movie trailer that we listened to before. And Q went on to say, when did POTUS make the statement? When did we arrive to start the awakening? You have more than you know. Fireworks. Q. So the question is, when did POTUS make the statement? When did we arrive to start the awakening? Well, on October 5th, 2017, POTUS says, calm before the storm. Q arrived October 28th, 2017. And now we're going to see the fireworks. The full power of the storm is here. And right now the push is on to get this IG report out into the open without redaction, without censorship, without anything, to find the truth. Post 1623, June 28th. Q says, trying to normalize. And Netflix right now is under fire for a film that they put out there which shows child pornography. And Q says, who just joined the board of Netflix? Who pushed what is coming? And we're seeing this now twice, where Facebook has a survey, do you condone pedophilia? And now we're seeing this in Netflix. So who's on the board of Netflix? Susan Rice. Also, Obamas were signed on to help out or make documentaries or whatever their position is. We also know that Soros is a huge stock investor in Netflix. So they're in this position, and it's just very odd that this was put out there. And they're trying to normalize this. So we see right now that these individuals, they're still chugging along with their agenda. And even if the IG report comes out and it shows that Rosenstein and all these individuals, all the things that we thought they did, they're never going to admit to it. I see with Rosenstein and the rest, when they're testifying, they don't think they're in the wrong. And they're never going to admit that they were wrong or they did anything wrong. They're going to continually lie. Even if there's written proof, documentation, and everything else, they will push their agenda till the very end because they do believe, like in the past, that nothing can touch them. And they're still in that mindset that they're untouchable. And I think that's about the change. The hammer is going to fall. The storm is here. And I think a lot of these individuals are going to be looking around going, what just happened here? And I think what's going to happen once this report comes out, once Congress gets this and starts reading everything that's in there, it's a whole nother ball game. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.